Hello, welcome to the print. I'm Amna Begum Ansari. India doesn't exist in isolation, and in a region like South Asia, engagement is often a necessity rather than a choice. With the Taliban now in control of Afghanistan and regional powers such as China, Pakistan, Iran, and Russia deepening their ties, New Delhi's outreach appears to be driven by realism. The logic is straightforward. India needs to secure its western flank, protect its investment, and counter Pakistan's influence. Yet, beneath this practically lies a familiar danger. We have seen this play before, the illusion of good Taliban and bad Taliban, the belief that engagement can soften an ideology built on fear and control. Whether India's outreach strengthens position or merely leads legitimacy to a regime defined by repression is something only time will tell. As India reopens its embassy in Afghanistan and welcomes Taliban Foreign Minister Amir Khan Muttaqi, an unease hangs in the air. The move, wrapped in the language of diplomacy and pragmatism, comes just as a press conference controversy exposes the moral fault lines of this engagement. It forces a question India would have to deal with. How far can a democracy go in dealing with a regime that thrives on repression without losing sight of its own principles? For a democratic country like India, built on ideals of equality and social justice, outrage over the exclusion of women journalists was not only expected, it was necessary. A nation that has long placed women's empowerment at the center of its moral and political discourse cannot stay silent in the face of such a blatant discrimination. And it's telling that the outrage worked. At the next press conference, women journalists were not only present but bold enough to question the Taliban directly about their treatment of women. That moment mattered because if India seeks strategic leverage, it must also use that position to stand firm on its principles. The Taliban may be desperate for allies, but engagement without accountability only strengthens their hand. But what caught my attention through all this was not the diplomacy or the optics, it was the warm welcome the Taliban minister received at the Darul Uloom Deoband in Uttar Pradesh. The reverence, the applause, and the celebration. For a man who represents a regime that denies women education, their freedom, and the very right to exist with dignity was chilling. As a Muslim woman, it is terrifying to see how easily such a figure finds space for admiration in my community. The bitter truth is that the many Muslim men, educated or not, religious or not, would, if given the chance, build a society no different than the one in Afghanistan, where women like me and my sister would stripped of every opportunity and voice. What's worse is that this support for the Taliban isn't confined to madrasas or villages. It thrives online too. Those who never tire of speaking about the injustice faced by the Muslims in India and elsewhere largely remain blind to the injustice the Taliban perpetuates against women in Afghanistan. Many users on X glorify the exclusion of women journalists as respect for Islamic values, not realizing they were celebrating their own chains. When women journalists were finally included in the second press conference, the Taliban leaders refused to look at them while speaking. What followed was a flood of praise on social media by many Muslim accounts, with many calling it a beautiful display of respect, an example of how men should lower their gaze in front of a parai aurat. But this so called respect is anything but that. It's not reverence, it's eraser. Behind the language of modesty lies an idea that refuses to see women as an equal human being worthy of being treated with dignity. It's the belief that a woman's presence is inherently tempting, that her visibility itself is a threat. The same idea, when taken to its extreme, justifies locking women inside homes, barring them from schools, and erasing them from public life. What they call piety is in truth the sexualization of a woman's existence, where even being seen becomes a sin. Even more disturbing is how normalized this mindset is within the Muslim community. Among many men in our own society who celebrate it afar from Afghanistan, the Taliban may be miles away, but their ideology finds quite admirer right here among educated men, social media influencer, and those who speak the language of rights and justice when it suits them. They can protest against Islamophobia one day and glorify the subjugation of women the next without seeing the contradiction. They are not fighting for equality, they are fighting for control. It's the truth revealing itself when Muslim voices that speak up against fascism, religious intolerance, and Hindutva oppression suddenly fall silent or worse, turn defensive when the oppressor shares their faith. These are not people fighting for justice, they are simply fighting for their own version of dominance. They find space and legitimacy in liberal and or leftist circles speaking the language of resistance, but their value crumble the moment those rights extend to women or anyone challenging their idea of faith. They're not against right wing ideology. They simply want their own right wing in charge. And the hypocrisy dressed in the language of victimhood is far more dangerous because it hides behind the mask of morality. For more such a video, keep watching the trend.